Global War 36 enthusiast here with Operation 8th Air Force, Turn 5.4, Japan. It is July 1938. Japan has two tech rules. First, I tried for improved construction at a 7 or higher. PBE generated a 3, so I failed. Second, I tried for large ship construction at an 8 or higher. PBE generated an 11, so I succeeded, advanced to stage 2. I did remove the oil bonus income for Japan because Japan is going to have combat movement this turn. Purchases. Japan has 33 IPP to spend. I will purchase 2 militia for 4, 7 infantry for 21, that's 25, and 2 marines for 8, that brings me to 33. Okay, combat movement. I'm going to have 2 combats. The first will be into Suyan. From Rihi, 1 infantry moves into Suyan. From Beiping, 4 infantry and an artillery move to Suyan. And then from Korea, the 2 fighters will fly to Suyan. They'll fly back and land in Korea. So I'll have 5 infantry, 1 of them boosted, 1 artillery, and 2 fighters in mountains. And then the second combat will be here in Shantung. From Beiping, 1 cavalry and 1 motorized infantry towing an artillery will move down 1-2 into Shantung. From C-Zone P41, a battlecruiser and a naval transport will come off the task force card and move up 2 spaces to P14. And then the naval transport will pick up an infantry from Hopei and drop that infantry off in Shantung to conduct an amphibious assault. And I'll bombard with the battlecruiser. So I'll have the battlecruiser bombardment, artillery, boosted infantry, and the cavalry. I'll have 4 shots at 3, plus the motorized at 2. So hopefully the 14 pips will be enough to take out that militia. No terrain in that battle. Those are my only 2 combats. Let's roll some dice. Let's do Suyan first, which is mountains. I have 1 first strike artillery at 2. Nope. Then I've got 4 unboosted infantry at 1. Nope. And then I've got 1 boosted infantry at 2. Nope. And then the 2 fighters at 6. Ugh. Okay, he's got the 2 militia at 2. Okay, let's try this over again. So I've got the 4 at 1 are the 4 unboosted infantry. Miss 2 at 2 because I've got the artillery and the boosted infantry. Ugh. And then 2 at 6, the 2 fighters. All right, and now he's got another shot at me. This will be 4 total shots. Yeah, he did deserve 1 since I failed to get anything that first round. He had 8 pips total. So I will lose an infantry, and I'll take it with 4 infantry, 1 artillery, and Suyan is worth 1, so Japan will go up to 27, and KMT will go down to 3. All right, now, next battle, I have 2, I've got the bombardment and the first strike artillery, 2 at 3. Okay, that's all I needed. So Shantung is worth 2. I take that with 1 infantry, 1 cavalry, 1 motorized infantry, and 1 artillery. Actually, let's put that on camera. No reason to have you staring at my dice tower. let's show Shandong. Captured that. Whoa, my stand almost fell over there. Okay, let's get that. 2 up to 29 for Japan and 1 for KMT. All right, land those 2 fighters. Let's do our non-combat movement. So from Nanking, I'm going to have 1 infantry move to Hunan, and from Hunan, 1 infantry will move to Kwangtung. So I'll add 1 infantry to the Kwangtung card. Okay, from C-Zone P14, I have the naval transport that started there. It is going to move over to C-Zone P16 using strategic naval movement. So 1, 2, over to P16, pick up the infantry from Tokyo. Move number 3 is to P15, move 4 is to P32, and move 5 is to P41. And I'll drop that guy off in Kwangtung. Okay. Next, from C-Zone P14, I will have the battleship and submarine will move down 3 spaces to P50. No, I'm sorry, to P41. Gonna move those guys to P41. Leave this sub here and have the battleship go on the task force card. Okay. From C-Zone P32, I will have this battleship go to P41, join the task force card. From C-Zone P32, 1 naval transport will move up 1 space to C-Zone P15, pick up 1 infantry, 1 marine from Kyushu. That's 1 move, 2 back to P32, 3 down to P41, drop off the infantry and the marine in Kwangtung. So right at this time, I've got 5 Marines, 1 Mountain, 5 infantry in Kwangtung. Would have had 5 infantry up in Suyon if I had hit on that first round. Would have been nice and even. Everything's, all the peanut butter spread out perfectly. From C-Zone P32, I'm going to take 2 fighters off the carriers and fly them to Kwangtung. So I'll add those fighters to the task force card. They're coming off the carrier task force card and going to Kwangtung's task force card. From C-Zone P32, the carrier task force consisting of a fleet carrier with a tactical, a light carrier, and 2 light cruisers is going to move down to C-Zone P59. From C-Zone P41, 2 naval transports and 1 naval transport and 2 destroyers will come off the card and move up 1, 2, 3 to P16. right. That leaves me one more naval transport there in P41. It will go up to, from P41 up to C-Zone P15, and then it will go in port in Kyushu. Let's get an in-port marker for that. From C-Zone P41, the one remaining destroyer that I didn't use will move up to C-Zone. It has a movement of 4 because of the major port in Kwangtung. It'll go 1, 2 to P15, pick up that Marine from Kyushu, 3, 4, back down to P41. Oh, I moved the wrong marker here. Sorry. I moved this task force that was in P41. That is, that's not the carrier task force. It's the one that's in P32. That's the one that had the carriers is moving down to P59. Okay, so the destroyer's coming out of here, out of P41, 2 spaces up, grabbing this guy, and then coming back down 2 spaces back down to P41 and dropping off the Marine in Kwangtung. So that brings Kwangtung up to 6. Let me chip that out. 6 Marines in Kwangtung now. Okay. From Formosa, 2 tactical bombers are going to fly down to the carriers so that I'll have 3 tactical bombers on my carriers in P59. Okay. And then from Formosa, that seaplane is going to fly up to Honshu. And that one more non-combat will be this coastal submarine from P50 will move down to P59. Sorry for how many moves. Kind of a complicated turn for not much combat. But at least that's the end of my non-combat movement. So placement of units in Rihi, I'm going to build 1 infantry. In Kyushu, I'm going to build 5 infantry. That is not on camera. Kyushu has 5 infantry. In Tokyo, I will build 1 infantry and 2 Marines. And then that leaves me 2 militia. 1 will go in Hunan, and 1 will go in Kwangtung. All right, I've got a recruitment role in Siam. I need a 1. And I got a 9. Okay. Well, I think the last time I played Japan, I did get a recruitment role, and this time I did not get a recruitment role. So that averages out. You'd figure about every other game, Japan might get a recruitment role with Siam. I was kind of hoping to get that recruitment role to get back that infantry I lost up in Suyan. So, collect income. Japan has 29 plus 1 for U.S. oil trade, plus the 6 bonus Chinese income, brings me to 36 for next turn. Let's do disposition. In Rehe, I have an infantry and a militia. In C-Zone P14, I have a battle cruiser and a naval transport. In Korea, I have 2 fighters. In Suyeon, I have 4 infantry and an artillery. In, you know what? I'm not gonna build this militia in Hunan. I'm gonna build that militia in O8AF. That's where I want to build it. So in O8AF, I have a militia. In Shangtung, I have an infantry, cavalry, motorized infantry, and artillery. In Hunan, I just have an infantry. In Kwangtung, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll build the militia in O8AF and Hunan, not in Kwangtung, because I got the 4 heavy cruisers in port in Kwangtung. And then also in Kwangtung, I have 5 infantry, 1 mountain infantry, 6 marines, 2 fighters. In Kyushu, I have a naval transport in port and 5 infantry. Honshu has a seaplane. C-Zone P16 has 2 destroyers and a naval transport. Tokyo has an infantry and 2 marines. Formosa has an infantry, Okinawa a militia, Volcano Islands a militia, Bonin Islands a militia, Marshall Islands a militia, Caroline Islands a militia, Palau a militia. Let's move this coastal sub down 1 space to C-Zone P50. So I have 2, in C-Zone P41, I have 2 battleships, 1 destroyer, 2 torpedo boat destroyers, 2 subs, 2 naval transports. Let's move this marine from Hainan to Kwangtung. So that means Kwangtung has 7 infantry. Make an adjustment there. Alrighty. Down in C-Zone P50, I have a sub and a coastal submarine. In P59, I have a fleet carrier with 2 tacticals, a light carrier with a tactical, 2 light cruisers, and a coastal submarine. And I think that might be it. Let me know if I've made any mistakes. Next up is Hambone with turn 5.5 Commonwealth and 5.6 France.